welcome to the Sounder podcast created out of the Sounder of Lady Hoggers. My name is Molly, and I'm from the Copper Penny Farm. And as always, I got my friends with me. Say hello, friends.
Hello, friends. I'm Laura Jensen. The Pig Nerd's probably the easiest way to find all the hats I wear. And we always like to share. I always like to share what's been going on. We had a hog roast here and an event called the Taste of Jensen Reserve. That was huge. We had a lot of people. I think I mentioned it in the last one towards the end. The hog roast went great. We had a live band here. It was a lot of fun. And then let's see, I did the recording for the value added seminar that I touched on in the last episode, and that went really well. So I think I helped a lot of people understand how they can look at their carcass a little different and hopefully be more profitable in the end. What else is going on? We're looking ahead to Christmas already. We're kind of trying to lay in all the charcuterie we can because we're kind of low, which is a beautiful thing. Still no federal license in place as far as in production. And I'm keep hope alive. Maybe this week, maybe next week. So
I saw you posted some stuff today about, I guess, was that your class or whatever, your butcher?
Yes. Thanks for that reminder. So I've got a whole hog breakdown class on November 5th. You can find it at jensenreserve.com. I need to share it to Pig Nerd. I'll do that a little later today. But that's a fun class because we start at 8:30 on Sunday morning, November 5th. And at the end of the day, the attendees leave with essentially the hog and the pork and the things that we cut and stuff that day. It's not charcuterie because there's just not enough time for that. But the two types of people that seem to love it most are the ones that would like somebody to kind of hold their hand on that first breakdown. And this is probably a bigger audience, people that want to do what I do in terms of they want a butcher shop, they want the license, and it's really an opportunity for them to have me essentially cornered for the whole day, which is fine because I love talking about it. And so a lot of people come in and they say, I want to do what you do. I want this kind of work and this is it, the end. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just talk about it. And typically by the end of the day, they've learned so much about what's the right fit for them that maybe that's not where they want to be. Maybe there's a different way to look at it. So there's a lot that goes on in that class. And I would love for anybody listening to come join us. I've got some folks coming in from Pennsylvania and different parts of the country. So I don't think it's just got to be an Atlanta thing.
Yeah. So there's another one that does the same thing. I don't know if I say her name right. I say Chantel, but it could be Chantal Mullen, or I guess that's how you say her last name. Anyways, she's down in North Carolina and she does the same thing. She holds classes and stuff like you do, just giving people a different perspective. And also for like first time, for people who's wanting to grow out their own meat, for them to actually see the process, understand the process, know what they're doing.
Yeah. Now, does she do? Now we don't put the hog down here. It comes in from the federal processor. But I want to say she may be doing that in her class. Do y'all remember?
Yeah, I think she is.
Okay. Yeah. We're more focused on the butcher shop side of it and what it takes and what it's like and that sort of thing. So really, either class has its own merit. It depends on what you want to do with your hog at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So what's going on in the Big Idaho? The Big Idaho.
Well, I've been sitting here trying to think about it. Really, we had our record number of eggs yesterday.
Woohoo! How many was that? You're holding up a finger. Was that how many there was?
It was 9.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it's such a weird thing. Like when you're when you're like starting over again, and it's like, okay, we went and picked out all these baby chicks for a starter flock, and now they're starting to lay eggs, and I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, we went from having a ton of layers in North Carolina to I've got about 20 here, and 9 of them are now laying. So that's exciting. We got our corrals finished, which is a big deal. So our sheep are now in their winter corral area, and they are doing some grazing out there, which is excellent. They're kind of cleaning up what grass we have left before it's going to be pretty much 100% hay feeding time. So they are doing good with our house stuff. We're making a little bit of progress. We have found a couple new banks that we're going to reach out to just to try to figure out what direction we're going to go with that and see. It's just tricky navigating that because of doing a self build. Not all banks are comfortable financing a self build. So, and additionally, when you're turning in your cost sheet, like when you're doing a self build, you're doing the labor, but the bank still requires that you show the retail cost of labor in your cost to build. So it makes it so that our cost to build is at least double what it would actually cost to build.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and that makes it also a little bit harder for us to get approved for that amount because we are a single income family. So it's just kind of, it's been interesting. I will say that I think that I have definitely learned a lot about if you decide to sell it all, move across the country, live in a camper and build a house on your own. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then last thing, football for my son is now over. They had their last game on Saturday and they had a huge win. They won 27-0. And it was so awesome to watch them play. I feel bad for the other team, but just watching our boys and how much they learned from the start of the season to the end of the season, I was such a proud football mom. So
Oh, yes.
that was fun. So yeah, what about you, Molly? What have you got going on?
Oh, well, as we were talking earlier, I have a bunch of tragedies going on right now. I have no water, which is very just awful for me because I'm surrounded by water. I have a pond, I have a creek, I have springs, I have all this shit, but I don't have a fucking drop of water in a pipe.
Yeah.
So anyways, I have no water, and then my dryer took a shit on me. So that was fantastic, and it's too cold to hang my clothes on the line. So I think I'm going to build a fire and hang my clothes from my ceiling in my basement.
Sometimes you got to get creative. I understand. Like,
oh my God.
yeah, right now with all the line drawing we're doing, I understand. I get
Yes.
it.
And so then, but on a good note, I finished out my farrowing season. So, my first time mommies. So, I had majority, all but one or two were first time mommies this go round,
Wow.
and did fantastic. Each one of the new mommies did lose one piglet, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Lozen had her babies. Rita has her babies. I mean, everybody's good to go. And what's really neat to me is this time around, I usually try to section off everybody and let them raise their young, and but this time around, I had two sisters from my sow Penny, and I let them farrow in the field in the open, and now they're raising all their babies together.
Oh.
And so it's really cool to watch them, like the mommies communicate with each other, and then the babies are all together communicating with each other, and it's just like one big family out there, and it's really neat. I had never done that, and but I do like it.
You got
Very
communal.
cool.
Yes. Another weird thing though is I have a barrow, little Richard, that was supposed to go to butcher, but I have not sent him off yet. But I'm going to. But he has like made himself the au pair. It's so weird. I have separated him from the two sisters and their babies, like, I mean, at least twice a day.
Huh.
And he finds his way over there. He sleeps with them. He guards them. It's like I've never seen a barrow act like that.
I've
That's
seen
fun.
it in the Maishon, where you'll have a dominant barrow become the lead, so to compare it to like a boss mare and a herd of horses, I've had that with the Maishon multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll come out in the field and he starts talking to all the babies,
He
right? And
tells
they all,
me, here she
yeah,
goes.
yeah, and they all gather around him and he barks at me and everything. He's like, get away from these babies.
Wow.
But it's so crazy because like he does mommy things. Like
He's
he roots them out of the way when he wants to lay down. He gets down on his fronts before he gets down.
Wow.
It's so bizarre. But
Yeah, you have
anyway,
more
I think
videos. You got to post
yeah,
that.
I think he's trying to do anything he can because he knows he's going to be harvested.
Yeah, no freezer camp. That's what his goal
Yeah,
is.
yeah. He's like, how could she harvest me? I'm out here doing so good, you know?
Right? Yeah.
But anyway, so those are things. I'm finishing up some art projects. I sold some more art.
Yeah.
I'm working on my third book, almost done with that. So, just a little bit of everything.
Very cool.
That's
But
good.
But one of the things that I'm working on, which Amanda's working on, and I know Lori is as well, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the cold, man. We're going to talk about what we do, how we do it, what we prep for, but we're also going to take a little spin on it and talk about our mental health during the cold and the lack of sunshine and the lack of just like being able to gather with people, socially.
Yeah.
So, y'all ready to talk about Mr. Winter?
Let's roll.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about it. So, to start off, like it's good that we're all in three different areas, because we can give a whole different aspect on the three different areas. Laura, you're right there in Georgia, which I don't think you all get a lot of snow, do you?
It's rare. We do get some single digits and teens, and I'll be the first to say that we don't get the winters that the rest of y'all get.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can handle it. I'll say that too.
Yeah. But then you got, then Amanda, she is drastically changing. I mean, she's going to Idaho in a fucking camper. Right. She's got to hit the winter in a camper,
Yeah.
And then like myself, I live like where I'm situated at, it's either you get a shit ton of snow or sometimes we don't get anything. We just get cold.
Yeah, you're in the mountains, right? And those mountains change things.
Yes. And like my house is sort of like in a valley type. And so I'm in between two ridges and, it will just drift down there. And plus y'all know my road and sometimes I get stranded down there for quite some time. But anyways, with like winter and stuff coming, I mean, what do you all pray? Because the temperatures are already dropping.
For sure. For sure. I know for us, one of the biggest things has just been making sure that everything is kind of buttoned up and ready for colder temperatures. I feel like whether you are living in a camper like we are temporarily right now, or whether you are living in, a regular house, what I'm seeing people do here right now is they are finishing up like feeding animals on pasture. A lot of the farmers are going ahead and like turning animals out into their alfalfa fields to let them clean them up before winter. And then there's a lot of making sure that your watering systems are winterproof and ready, whether that means you've got heaters in them or you are have some sort of like pump on it to keep the water circulating, that kind of thing. And also just making sure that your shelters are ready for animals, that you don't have things that need repaired for going into winter time and things like that. I know for us, this is all so new. Like last winter, we were here, we were staying with my mother-in-law in her home. So we were living pretty normally. I feel like here with living in the camper, we our living space is in the camper. We also have an army tent where we keep extra things like all of our clothes and our washer and dryer and stuff like that. Well, our dryer is not hooked up. I've had to unhook our washer because it's getting cold enough now at night. I don't want that to freeze or anything like that. So I don't know. I feel like for living, it's just trying to figure out what can we do to keep everybody warm and happy and fed well enough to not lose body conditioning and that kind of thing. That's kind of what we're doing on a basic farm level.
Do y'all
Yeah.
have y'all have periods of time or days, right, that you won't get above freezing? I would imagine.
We have periods of time where we don't get above 0.
You can have that.
Last
Yeah.
winter, last winter we had multiple days that were in the negatives, and we had wind chills of -50. So
What?
Dude, it was 27 degrees at my house, and I thought literally I was frostbit.
but I will say
Molly.
the cold
Yeah.
here is very different. I feel like everybody says that about dry heat and humidity and heat. It's the same with cold. The cold here is so dry. I know in North Carolina, when we would get cold, it would still be humid and it like chills you to the bone.
Yeah.
Here, it's cold, but if the sun is shining, like we were still outside on days that it was 0 or colder, but if the sun was shining, we were fine. If you're dressed in layers and you're dressed appropriately, you're fine. If the wind's blowing, that's a different story. But if the sun is shining and you can be outside, even if it's cold and you're dressed warm, like we were fine. The kids were fine.
Yeah. Laura, what is your average temperature there? I mean, in the cold.
You know, our weather is like the rest of the world. You just never know from one day to the
Yeah.
next.
True.
You know,
So
it could be 60s, it could be 20s.
Yeah.
It varies.
So really, all you got to worry about is just making sure people like people, well, yourself, I guess, but your animal stuff, they just have bedding and stuff.
So that is our biggest thing. You know, a lot of people ask how the Mason does with cold, and granted, you know, Atlanta isn't the cold that you see in Idaho, but in working with members all over the country, you know, I think animals in general just need a dry place with good bedding that they can burrow down in. So
Yeah.
bedding is a big thing for us. In terms of water, when we brought in this foundation herd 3 years ago and expanded our water system, Bill, my husband, put a valve like down the hill on the bottom. And that was so that if it is below freezing or when that happens, we can turn the water off and open the valves so that everything runs down that hill. And essentially the system's dry until we, until we're ready to turn it back on. Last winter we did get some single digits, and if we find that if weather's coming in like snow or sleet or something like that, that really the pigs aren't going to come out. So if it looks like something that is really not good for us to be out in for ice or cold, or, you know, both of those, that's really not a great combination. What we'll do is heavy bed them. I even used round bells last year, like to make breaks and things like that. That worked really well. But we'll top off their waters and we'll feed them double, and we'll check them on you know, we'll skip a day and go to the other side. And they're just fine, you know. So and other stuff that we have to do, you know, for us, it's a season with the retail store. December is probably our biggest month of the year. You know, with Artisan Foods, we're known as that, make your meal, make your event, make your moment amazing with our products. So it will be our biggest month of the year. So for me, when I look at it, as y'all were talking, something hit me that I didn't realize. And when you talked about mental health and the cold weather, I don't think I realized what kind of negative effect daylight savings has had on me.
Yeah.
And y'all were talking, and you know, that's right around the corner, and that it depresses me. That's what I've realized. That's kind of the start of the ugh, God, it's dark so early.
Dude,
So
it's so like, you know, when it gets to that time, I wake up, I'm feeding in the dark. I get home, I'm feeding in the dark. And it's just like, I think it's so agitating to me, you know, because it's hard, man. It's like you don't, you know, the beauty and stuff that you see and the things you get to do at your house when the sun is out, you know, that's stripped away.
Yep. Your
And
projects become harder. Everything just seems to become harder at that moment.
yeah, and I start contemplating, you know, like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this?
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's ridiculous. You know, like Carrie Joe that's on there, you know, she was talking, and even I think Suzanne Andrews was talking about, you know, you got to have sledgehammers and shit, you know, in the wintertime, you know, breaking up ice. But it's like, you know, I got animals up on the mountain, man, and, you know, to go up there and haul water and haul my feed when I'm in like 72 layers of clothes, and I'm just like, and it's dark out,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
draining. It's draining to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much so.
I
Yeah.
know here that
Oh, go
is
ahead.
that's one thing when the time changes. Like in the summertime, it's awesome because it's like the sun is rising. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun's up or coming up, and it stays light here. Like the sun is not down past the mountains until like 10:30 at night. So
Oh,
we have so much daylight, and it's kind of deceiving because you think, oh, it can't be that late yet. And you're like, holy cow, it's, whatever time we
yeah.
gotta get to bed. But in the wintertime, we have the opposite of that being here because we're a little further north. So I want to say the sunrise here, like already the sunrise is happening in between 7 and 7:30, closer to 7:30 now.
Yeah.
So time, I'm sure, I want to say last year it was like 8 o'clock ish.
Yeah.
And the sun is starting to set, not yet, but in the winter, it's starting to set by like 4 o'clock. It's
Yeah.
going down, on its way down. So I know for like my husband, he goes in, he works from, let's see, right now he's 7 to 5. And then after he has government clearance and can start like doing what he got hired to do, he'll be working on shift. So he'll be going in the dark and coming home in the dark and being inside a building where he doesn't even see the sunlight. So I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah.
Well, it's like right now, me and Uncle Benny, I mean, we would be putting up fence. It'd be like 9:45, and it's just starting to get dark, at
Mm-hmm.
night. And now, it's usually by 6:30, 7 o'clock, it's done, at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's starting to get that way here too. By 7 o'clock, it's the kids need to come in because it's too dark to be playing outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do when it comes to my workload with the various hats I wear is if I know that I've got a period of time that's going to be a heavy workload, the first thing I do is I schedule a break after that. As I pick a long weekend, I can't really do weeks. I don't want to for the workload, but so we know September was crazy, and then we're working on a weekend in October now that we can take a long weekend. And I'm adopting that into winter because I realized last winter that to kind of be here and in that without a place to go get warm, I wasn't a very happy person. I think it really is this depression and this seasonal thing. That the cold hurts, especially with autoimmune disease. The cold is not my friend. So my hope is I've got 2 trips somewhere warm this winter. I know I've got the one in January, and I'm hoping for another one, maybe March, to
Yeah.
keep my spirits up.
Yeah. I think, though, it's like for me, I've always had a seasonal depression. And people tell me, like, there's no such thing. No, there is a such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Come around my birthday in September, I would always it was like I was in a funk, man, you know.
Yes.
But I noticed that once I was out doing things, working outside, doing, projects and stuff like that, it's like I really didn't think about it, I guess. And so it hasn't triggered me. But it
Mm-hmm.
will start triggering me again in the wintertime because I'm not out doing things. I'm not seeing my animals all day, every day. I'm not seeing people, delivering hogs to people and seeing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me in a house. And it's just like, what in the hell?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
one thing, if I can say this really quick, one thing that I found last year, so I've always been that way too, where I get the wintertime blues, where I'm just like in a funk. I don't feel like
Yeah.
myself, not motivated to do things and stuff like that. And I knew moving here last year, it was going to be a huge contrast from being in North Carolina, having a longer winter, a colder winter, everything more harsh. And I did 2 things that I felt like really, really helped me kind of get through it and maintain a fairly happy mental state. And those things for me were, one, I made sure that no matter what, I got out and I did a short walk. It didn't have to be long. And I would be bundled up. I had my Carhartt bibs on and like a hoodie and my barn jacket and a hat and like all the things. But I would go out, I would go for a walk, and I would come home and, like my face would be so cold. There were times I literally, my nose hairs were frozen.
Oh God,
Wow.
yeah.
I would be, but I would come inside and just feeling that the warmth of that wood stove was just like, that
Oh,
feels so,
yes.
I
Yeah.
knew I heart pumping. Even if the sun wasn't shining, I was still getting light in my eyes. I wouldn't wear my sunglasses. I would just go, you're getting sunlight in your eyes. You're going inside. You're feeling the warmth of the wood stove. And then the other thing that I did was I just tried to adopt this mindset that winter time, like, yes, things are more challenging. It is harder to do some tasks in the winter. But if you think about it, like, there's more darkness, it's more cloudy. It's not a time, it's not a growing season. It's a period of rest. And it's
Yes.
not just plants that need rest. It's not just animals that need rest. Humans need rest too. And so for me, it was just kind of adopting this mindset that, you know what? This is a period of time where I don't have to feel like go, go, go. I've got this project and this going on and blah, blah, blah. Like, just embrace the rest. Like, you're going to have certain
Yes.
tasks, like I said, that are harder. But if you can give yourself enough grace to just kind of say, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to find an indoor hobby that I enjoy. That's when I was cross stitching everything and knitting washcloths and like doing all these things, but like finding indoor things that you can still do to keep your hands busy, keep your mind busy because you can't be outside, and just appreciate the season of rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I know not everybody has that luxury or even wants to entertain adopting that mindset, but that really helped me get through it. And I feel like that's what I'm just trying to remind myself as this winter is coming, because our living situation has completely changed from last year. Staying with my mother-in-law versus being out in a camper now, the elements are going to be a little bit harsher. And so I'm just trying to like mentally prepare myself that, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's just a season. It's not forever. And if we want to just have some days where we just rest, we stay inside and stay warm, it's okay. That's okay.
I think it's super hard though for like busy minded, busy body, busy, you just because that's like I have a squirrel for a brain, man. It's like all
Yeah.
over the place,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's like I just want the squirrel to stop and maybe he can take a nap. It's like, but and I think that that's hard on people.
Yeah.
You got to think about it too. We're coming through a hard year. We're
Yeah.
coming through inflation. We're coming through people have been spending way more money than they've got to take into the off season. People
Yeah.
have lost money. They didn't gain as much money this year from their crops, from their produce, from their animals. They didn't. So they're really going into a winter with already a struggle on their hands because maybe they weren't able to stockpile enough. Maybe they don't have in the bank what they needed to. And it's hard. I think that also is going to play a different effect on people too, going into this winter. Seeing what they didn't come into it with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. My retail store in September grew 40% in sales, and it was much needed because of the kitchen upfit. But what do I attribute that to? Part of it is I'm learning how to advertise, but I feel like equally as much, if not more, is that people can't afford to eat out. They can't afford
Yep.
to eat, like you were just saying, Molly. And so they can come here and or ship, like we're selling quarter cows a lot right now, shipping them across the country. And I think it's that stockpiling thing of folks saying, hang on, winter's coming. And you're right, we don't have as much money as we did, and how can we buy something that's still a great quality and make sure we eat?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. So I hope it will continue for this month, but historically October can be a lull because, the kids are back in school. It's not quite the holidays and people are kind of pulling back a little bit to figure out what holiday spending looks like. So time will tell.
Yeah, I think, I'm hoping what comes out of this is, people will actually see the beauty in simplicity.
Hmm.
Um, people will be able to adapt. We talk about this all the time on your choices, you
Hmm.
know, and over consuming, over intaking, over spending, maybe seeing what the simple things and getting by on what you actually need it, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
pushing people. And this could be a good time. This could be a good time for people to learn new things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I keep coming back to, I think this season for us is going to be all about the crock pot. We've kind of
Yep.
gotten away from the ham bone and beans, and I don't know why. I guess it's just cycles, but yeah, I see us doing that this winter a lot, and I'm looking forward to it. Is that simple, basic, back to a simpler life. So
Yeah.
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 That,
I've been trying to like utilize every portion of something, you
Hmm.
know, and not being wasteful because, at this moment in my life, I'm having to really focus on, making stretching everything out to what I can, you know.
yeah.
And so that's one thing that I've been doing is like not is actually utilizing every portion of something that I'm doing, not discarding, eating leftovers, stuff like that, so that, I'm getting every penny's worth, compared to used to. I just say, oh, fuck it, and I'm trying not to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, Laura, saying that just trying to get back to some simpler things. I feel like that's one of the things too that I'm
Uh,
looking for
uh, uh,
also.
so sorry,
I,
the dog is. I didn't mean that to you. Sorry, that was that voice coming out. Hang on,
Hey,
y'all.
um, but I feel like that's kind of one of the things that we have really embraced this last year is just living simply and trying to find joy in that, because so many of us have been so caught up in like spending all kinds of money to do this or do that or go here or wear this or whatever it may be. And this year it's just been, let's find a simpler way to live, and let's just embrace that and find happiness in that. And sometimes it's out of necessity, um like Molly was mentioning, and I feel like ours has kind of been 50-50. It's partially been by choice, and it's partially been out of necessity, because we have really felt um the rising costs of inflation here. I mean, just like we were talking before we got on here about the costs of basic necessities, our gas prices are also incredibly high. Um, my husband drives a diesel truck. My car is not diesel, and he is able to take the bus, thankfully. But diesel fuel here is around $5 a gallon, if not more than that. In some places, we in Montana several weeks ago when we picked up the sheep, we're paying $6 a gallon for diesel. And even gas prices are anywhere from like 420 to 450 a gallon. So, and everything is a haul for me. So, and that is by choice. I mean, we live where we do by choice. But it's just, okay, we're not going to go into town today. We need to figure out things to do here. Um, so yeah, I think that this winter, if people are kind of coming into winter, maybe not in the negative, maybe they are in the negative, but just kind of feeling like, okay, this year was not what we had hoped for. Um, we are going to have to find ways to live more simply. And that may be with the activities that we're doing, the foods that we're eating, but that doesn't mean that you have to be bitter about it. You can still find joy in that.
Mhm.
Everything I feel like kind of comes and goes in seasons. And so right now we're just in a season of time that is kind of funky. And we're just going to have to figure out ways to get scrappy and just kind of embrace the simplicities of life.
Yeah, I love your message, Amanda. I think it has resonated with me, and I think it will a lot of others. That what if it is as simple as saying, you know what, it's winter. We're going to slow down. We're going to simplify some things. We're gonna chill out for the day. We don't have to go go go. We don't have to get. More importantly, so yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what can lead to the depression is people all like we live in a rat race society. We live
Yeah.
in a you got to go, you got to do, you got to get, you got to do all these things, you know, when in reality, for us to take a break is
Yeah.
truly what should be happening.
Yeah, yeah. That's a huge struggle for me. And it's one reason I preach what I do about marketing and sales and all those things, because effectively, I personally took on 3 startup businesses, and that's the kiss of death for most people. And I have felt like I have been on the edge of of falling off that cliff many, many times. And it's been a lot this year of me making peace with it. That this is simply where I am. These are the choices I made. More importantly, it is the passion for me to pursue what I do with these hogs and these businesses. So if that is my purpose and my passion, then I have to balance it out on the other side with saying it's okay to slow down sometimes. It's okay to take a weekend off. It's okay to not go 90 to nothing every single day. And that's still hard for me because I see so much that needs to be done, and so much that I want to accomplish. So the battle continues, but I think this year more than others is a reality that it's okay to slow down, especially in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, this podcast, I mean, we can take it in so many directions, like we were talking about before. The prep of what we need to do for winter, the
Mhm.
the feelings of emotion and depression and what the fuck are we doing, stuff
Mhm.
like that. But when you think about it too, it's like, which is going to lead into our next podcast, which is the stockpiling. You have to have a winter stockpile of food, man.
I
This
think
year,
it's a smart play. Even in suburban areas, I think COVID taught everybody that. I think the 3 of us have lived in places, growing up for me, it was 30, 40 minutes to get to a grocery store,
Yep.
and a lot of people live that way. So we always had the freezer full of whatever. But I think that COVID has taught our country that it's important to stockpile, like you said, to have something to
yeah,
eat.
yeah. Well, I think too, just not knowing, there's so many things going on. Like, we have a new a new war in Israel going on. We've still got all the Ukraine and Russia things going on. We're coming up on an election year. We've got inflation. We've got all kinds of things going on. Like, we've got lots of distractions. We've got lots of things going on, but we've also got lots of things here in the US. We've got just so many things. And I feel like if you can at least have the basic need of having food in your pantry, in your freezer, stockpiled, that can be something that you don't have to be worried about or concerned about going into winter and getting through winter. And I
Mhm.
feel like one thing that keeps coming to my mind as we're talking about all of this is I think of the I think it's Aesop's fable of the busy little ants and the grasshopper. Like, I feel like we've been
Yeah.
busy little all summer and spring, summer, fall, just trying to prepare for winter. And we're knocking on winter's door. And if I feel like I'm sure that there are people out there, myself included to a certain extent, that are feeling totally unprepared in terms of, like, okay, if shit hits the fan, am I going to have what I need? And I can say personally, no, we do not have what we need. So I think that, um, you know, the whole stockpiling and figuring out what are some basic things that we can set aside, to kind of be there if we need it. We're heading into, for us, like with weather wise, that's an El Nino winter, which can either be super severe or it can be not so bad. I guess just like any winter, but it can be extreme. Last winter, we had 9 feet of snow and like extreme temperatures and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, if we're going to have more of that, and we started getting snow before Halloween and it went through April, we were still getting snow in April. So being able to stockpile, I feel like is something that I want to be able to do, but I'm going to have to be creative in how I do that because I don't have tons of space for storing things.
Well,
Um,
most people don't have tons of space anymore, but they also don't have the money that they
exactly.
need to buy. Like we were talking about earlier. You go to the store, you're spending $300-400.
Mhm.
And you're coming out able to carry the bags.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, when I was little, man, we would go to the store. My dad would get paid. We would go to the store. We would have a whole fucking cart full of shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it would be like $50, $60. And I'm like, and my dad would be like, damn, God, that was $60, you know, like that was a lot.
Yeah.
Now, $60, that doesn't even get you 2 bags of groceries sometimes.
No,
No.
no, it doesn't. Bill and I used to be able to eat for a weekend up at the cabin for, $75, $85. And now you put 100 in front of that. And, it's crazy.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is crazy. You know, like Marilyn came over and spent a few days with me, and we were comparing prices on things. And like the money that we spent at the grocery store was insane.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane for what? I mean, we ate good, we did good, but it was still, that's a lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
and which we're going to take that into a whole new podcast. So I'm probably going to cut us off here in just a second. But,
Okay.
but you can take that into, that can go back to where we're talking about, spend your money more wisely. People think that buying wholes and halves, is too much money, but are you saving money in the long run?
Right.
Are you out here spending, $6 on bioengineered mayonnaise and shit? It's
Yeah.
all this stuff that can lead into something else.
Yeah. I'm blown away at fast food prices. I can't eat that stuff, but Bill does sometimes. And to hear that you're paying $12, $14 for a value meal somewhere, that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I have my own theories on that.
Yeah, yeah. When do we get into that? So yeah,
Yeah.
let me grab a little something y'all might want to meet real quick here since he's
Okay.
Come here. Come see me. Come here, Pookie. Come on. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Come on. There you go. So this is what has had me getting in and out of the chairs today.
Oh.
Look at him.
This is our Azzy. This is my daughter's little dog. And he loves to sing. He sings.
Oh, does he?
All the time. Don't you? Not today. Okay. We'll do it another day. So anyhow.
Well, it's so off subject, but my mama had a little chihuahua, Mickey, and he would get on Mama's chest and she would like make noises, like start singing, and he would howl and
Yes,
sing.
that's their happy voice, and it scares people because when he first did it, we thought that something was killing him, but no, he's just happy like that.
Yes. Okay. So we talked a little bit about everything today, which I want this to lead into our next podcast. And our next podcast, we are going to get back into what's in our food, what can we do. We're going to get back into what you're stockpiling for the winter time and making sure that you're making the right choices.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So how about y'all go feed them churros, them peanut snacks, them Masons, all them things. I'll go feed them hogs.
All right, y'all. See ya.
All right. See you. Bye. Love y'all.
Bye.